As old Laurio appeared in front of them, he stopped running immediately. The Yee Naaldlooshii saw the severe wound on his body trying to heal itself. "Old Laurio, are you all right?" one of the Yee Naaldlooshii asked. Old Laurio just shook his head while gasping for breath. Moments later, he heard the ground shake again as Master Florent and his disciples approached them. He saw the faces of his companions filled with fear at the sight of the beings before them. Upon old Laurio's arrival, he addressed all his companions while continuing to speak. "Friends, brothers in our group, do not worry. The demon that provides us safety lives in our hearts. We must stop them from destroying our beloved families. Remember, we do this and will continue to do this for the future of our kin and race," old Laurio told all his companions. Hearing this, his companions almost went wild. Before deciding to charge, they wanted to study their plans. Moments later, Master Florent and his disciples suddenly stopped walking for an unknown reason. According to old Laurio at that time, 15 Yee Naaldlooshii, along with their strongest warriors, were with them. They also carried weapons infused with dark magic. Almost 30 skinwalkers responded to his call, which delighted him greatly. Even with their numbers, old Laurio remained fearful but tried to cast it aside, knowing he needed to be strong for his loved ones. "Laurio, I am giving you a chance to surrender. You are the only one we need, no one else. Come with us, Laurio, if you don't want anyone else to get hurt," Master Florent said. Hearing this, some of his companions shouted in protest. "Our kind will remain our kind until the end. We will not let you take our leader without a fight. Try it, and we'll see who survives," one of the Yee Naaldlooshii said. With this, all his companions growled while slowly preparing to charge. Old Laurio had no choice but to join his kind in the battle they desired. He sought help from the giant tree monster to defeat the healers aiming for their destruction. As they continued to watch their surroundings, they suddenly fell silent upon hearing Master Florent's enchantments. The words seemed to trap them, creating a barrier that instilled fear. As Master Florent finished his forbidden magic, the surroundings slowly changed. A heavy weight seemed to press down on them, making even walking difficult. Looking at his fellow warriors among the Yee Naaldlooshii, old Laurio saw them collapse, growling in pain. Some Yee Naaldlooshii were already on their knees for unknown reasons. Moments later, old Laurio noticed centaurs approaching. Their weapons scraped the ground as they walked, talking as if this event was routine for them. Soon, they heard Master Florent speak again. "Whatever you do, you have no chance of winning. I don't know where you get the strength to fight the beings sent by the Lord. You have been blinded by your teachings, leading you to destruction and danger." After speaking, 3 of his disciples charged without hesitation. Before they could get close, they quickly raised their weapons to prepare for the attack. Even with their bodies weighed down, old Laurio and his companions tried to block the attacks with their dark magic-infused weapons. Some of them died from the disciples' attacks, instilling fear as it was the first time they saw healers in centaur form. They couldn't overpower their strength due to the numerous talismans the centaurs carried. Powerful presences surrounded them, purely for combat. Minutes passed, and old Laurio saw many companions around him losing consciousness. Some Yee Naaldlooshii died from the relentless attacks of Master Florent's disciples. Continuing the battle, old Laurio and his companions had no choice but to defend themselves. Many tried to flee but couldn't break through the healer's barrier. "Laurio, surrender. I am giving you a chance to die with dignity. Consider it an honor to die at the hands of a fellow healer. Don't make me show you the death of all your kin," Master Florent shouted. As he shouted, he sat back down, watching his disappearing disciples. Exhausted and scared, old Laurio couldn't respond. Moments later, he heard the voice of the giant tree monster in his mind. Knowing it was approaching, he continued fighting to give it time to arrive. Minutes later, all of Master Florent's disciples stopped when they saw the rampaging giant tree monster approaching. As it hit the barrier created by the healers, it immediately shattered it. This boosted the Yee Naaldlooshii's hope of defeating their enemies. Seeing the approaching giant tree monster, Master Florent quickly blew his prayer into the carabao's tooth he wore. As he chanted, he charged at the creature, stabbing its right leg. The giant tree monster thrashed in pain, hitting the enemies with its arms. The giant tree monster didn't notice the arrival of more disciples. They ganged up on it until it could barely stand. The Yee Naaldlooshii watched, wanting to flee. Old Laurio also joined them, trying to escape the battle. Within seconds, all the Yee Naaldlooshii escaped. Only the giant tree monster and a few wounded skinwalkers remained. They couldn't help them, knowing the healers were too dangerous. Moments later, everyone watching the battle fell silent as they saw the giant tree monster collapse. Its body was covered with wounds from the centaur's weapons. "Look at this, the guide of the Ikran. It's good you showed up so we can finish you off." Master Florent laughed while holding his dagger. Moments later, he pulled out his dagger, ready to kill the creature. The giant tree monster could only growl, facing its death. As Master Florent's dagger touched its neck, he suddenly dropped it, feeling the dark sand slowly enveloping the creature. Minutes passed, and Master Florent tried to stop the giant tree monster from escaping, but he failed as it required time to take effect. In a blink, the creature turned into a tree trunk. Before disappearing, old Laurio heard its laughter. With the silence of the surroundings, they quickly ran, not wanting the healers to catch up. They each took different paths to save their lives. Old Laurio decided not to go home, knowing Master Florent's disciples would be watching the area. "Linda, I will return, I promise. Be strong. I have something I need to do." Old Laurio spoke to the spirits around him. After delivering his message, he immediately headed towards the distant barrio. He was accompanied by a few of his Yee Naaldlooshii who lived in the area. Upon arriving at the homes of some of his followers, he summoned the Sigbin to stay there for the night. Old Laurio and his companions spent the time planning their next attack. "Old Laurio, we need to consult the demon ally to prepare for the upcoming battles. We can't do nothing, as many have already lost their lives," said one of his Yee Naaldlooshii. Hearing this, old Laurio gathered all his companions present and said, "Are you sure you want to fight the healers? Haven't you seen their power? But if that's your decision, I have no choice but to join you. I will find a way to defeat the healers now." With these words, some of their companions quickly stood up to find creatures that could join them in the battle. Old Laurio also sent a message to ensure that other tribes would not reject him. According to him, the war that happened in their village was a war for all the beings living throughout San Remigio. Early the next morning, old Laurio and his group went to the mountain where the giant tree monster lived. There, they decided to build a fort to ensure their safety. They made many changes to the place to make it difficult for anyone to enter without permission. It was as if they were rebels, carrying numerous weapons and equipment. They walked in a single line to avoid disturbing the creatures living there. After a few hours, they reached the place where the giant tree monster lived. They immediately set up a camp and cooking area. While old Laurio and his group were busy, some of their companions went to the foot of the mountain to guard against any intruders. Old Laurio instructed them to be extra cautious, as Maestro Pedrito's home was nearby. As dusk fell, old Laurio decided to descend the mountain to observe their home. He was restless because he didn't know if the spirits had successfully delivered his message. When he arrived in their village, he saw some people walking around as if looking for something. Soon, he spotted some of his acquaintances with Master Florent's disciples, accompanied by creatures resembling dogs. They ignored them as they had other matters to attend to. As they continued walking, they kept a close watch on their surroundings. Old Laurio said they felt like thieves being pursued by the government. He couldn't help but feel anxious with every step, knowing how sharp the healer's senses were. When they reached old Laurio's house, they saw Master Pedrito's disciples standing guard. As they looked around, they noticed creatures with traces of Master Florent's presence. These creatures might have been Master Florent's watchers, so old Laurio and his companions decided not to enter. All they could do was wait for his wife to appear at the window. "Old Laurio, we should probably return to the hideout," said one of his Yee Naaldlooshii. Hearing this, old Laurio and his group walked back to the mountain. Even as they moved away from the village, they continued to be cautious to avoid any danger. Upon reaching the area guarded by their companions, they instructed them to be vigilant in watching the surroundings. No creature with an unusual presence should pass through their lines. When they arrived at the giant tree monster's place, they found it eating the food prepared by their companions. The creature looked very weak due to the many wounds and bruises on its body. Even old Laurio could hardly believe that Master Florent almost killed it. "Friend, are you okay?" "What happened?" asked old Laurio. The creature glared at him and slowly grinned. "I'm happy, Laurio. What the healer did to me means I'm still alive in this world," replied the giant tree monster. As it spoke, it handed old Laurio a weapon made from human bone. It was a sword with an incredibly sharp edge, wrapped in cloth to protect the wielder's hand when striking an enemy. After receiving the weapon, the creature opened its clenched left fist, revealing a very black stone with holes on all sides. The stone smelled terrible, as if it had been soaked in a decaying animal's carcass for a long time. "Laurio, take this. This stone will protect your medallion. The sword you're holding now will be the weapon you use to defeat all our enemies," said the giant tree monster. After old Laurio took it, the creature instructed him to swallow the stone. Old Laurio didn't hesitate because he trusted the demon's command. After doing so, he felt like vomiting and his stomach churned. Moments later, he started drooling for no apparent reason. These claws were razor sharp, even though he hadn't transformed. His eyes turned red, causing great concern among his companions. A few minutes later, his normal feeling returned when the giant tree monster touched him to feed his new weapon. According to the giant tree monster, if old Laurio forgot to feed the weapon, it might consume his system. The virtue didn't care about the nature of its caretaker. If it sensed weakness, it would slowly consume him until nothing was left. "Laurio, remember, the tools I gave you are demons themselves. Control them to use them properly. Don't show any weakness, as it could lead to your own death," the giant tree monster warned. After speaking, the giant tree monster went to its resting place. Once it was out of sight, old Laurio and his group sat down to start their meal. Despite their heavy problems, they tried to enjoy themselves to forget their troubles for a few seconds. As night deepened, they sent some skinwalkers to watch the entire village. They instructed them not to approach Master Pedrito's home, as healers capable of merging with centaurs might still be there. Hearing this, the skinwalkers immediately headed to the village. Old Laurio and his group could do nothing but wait for the spies' reports. As time passed, many of their companions had opinions on what they should do to win the upcoming battles. Most wanted to set traps to make it easier to kill their enemies. However, old Laurio strongly opposed this, knowing that Master Florent would not fall for such tactics. At midnight, their awaited messengers arrived with terrifying news. If you like this story, please like this video and subscribe. We are very happy if you do that, because it's really big help for our channel.